Well, this coming week is shaping up to be a huge one. President Trump's biggest week on the international stage so far, for sure. This weekend, the president can expect some tough talk with his counterparts in Quebec at the G7 summit. Last week, the United States announced new tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from the EU, the European Union, Canada, and Mexico. That, of course, after the president warned he was doing it, then the president will head to Singapore, where he could see history in the making as the United States and North Korea begin their nuclear summit. That summit happens on Tuesday, and we will be live early, 5 a.m. Eastern, here on the Fox Business Network. Joining me right now to talk about the week ahead and the week that was is our own Kristina Partsinevelos, along with James Freeman of the Wall Street Journal. Great to see you guys.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Your thoughts as we approach this historic summit on Tuesday. What will you be looking for? What's most important? How should we be looking at this meeting?
Well, I guess my expectations are pretty low, and I'm kind of wondering why this is even happening, especially with the president saying this week that this might be a process that goes years into the future. No. The only reason we should be giving this dictator a meeting is if he's delivering something now.
You're right. And he said denuclearization going into it. We haven't heard that that's exactly the format, though,
right,
and what he's planning on doing.
The fact that President Trump just yesterday said that he would, or on Thursday, say that he would give maybe a meeting or invite the leader of North Korea to the White House, when that's reserved as a privilege to come to the White House. If we're talking about what's to be expected, will the President of the United States, will he sign a peace treaty with North Korea? Because officially the Korean War hasn't ended. So that's one big major hurdle. Talk about military presence, and that's going to affect Japan, which is why Abe has had so many talks with the president, because they don't actually have an official army. And if the United States leaves South Korea, that could be bad news for Japan. So those are two things that I think I would be concerned about in this normalization talk about the
China helped North Korea get to the table, right? China, we think, helped President Trump in terms of encouraging the North to actually even begin discussions. Let's talk trade for a minute, because we know that this aluminum and steel tariffs are being debated all across business right now. But when it comes to China, I think we both agree that something needed to be done, because they steal our technology and our intellectual property. Where are you in terms of China and the trade tariffs?
And I think this is, talking about this G7 meeting, I think this is an area where the president might be able to find some common ground. If he decides maybe before leaving early that he doesn't want to spend the 2 days locked in a room with politicians arguing about the tariffs, maybe he ought to be just saying to his colleagues among the democracies of the world, let's focus on China, let's lower barriers, but let's think about how we make the rule of law occur there in terms of companies not being forced to share, not being forced to do business with Chinese partners they don't want to.
Yeah, I think this is a really important point that you bring up, because we already know that he's walking into a room where there's tension, right, Kristina? Because we know what Justin Trudeau said about tariffs, retaliatory tariffs, the European Union doing the same thing. Is this an out-and-out trade war?
I think we've already hit that point, because everybody has come back with retaliation.
Right.
You have Mexico even saying today, or within the past few days, a 20% tariff on pork, and that's affecting American companies that supply pork, like Tyson. And right now, you may call it a family feud, but I think it's a little bit more serious than that. And President Trump is going to be meeting separately with Canada as well as France. So possibly there could be some discussions there that could potentially ruin NAFTA if that happens. But I still don't understand, why is he meeting with France? Because they can't create a bilateral agreement because they're part of the EU. So I guess it's just going to be talk and getting that bromance going, and obviously talking about tariffs. But I don't think it's going to be very pleasant.
All right, we'll leave it there. Kristina, James, great to see you both.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us.